large human skulls, and skeletons that measured between 7 and 8 feet in height. For ancient man, would have been rather significant.
Our world is a bizarre place, but this video will tell you how bizarre it actually gets.
Scientists have made a groundbreaking discovery deep in a cave in South Africa, the bones of what looked to be a new human-like species.
Long lost treasures, buried secrets, and things that defy logic. Let's have a look at centuries-old discoveries that were hidden for a reason. Mysterious sphere. One super strange discovery from 1974 in Jacksonville, USA has made many like myself scratch their heads. The Betts family were looking at the result of the wildfire that had spread through their area when they found a mysterious, smooth silver ball in the middle of the woods.
As I've stated previously, when I found it, it was on top of the ground, nor anyone else I know has any knowledge of this.
It was no cannonball because they weren't made out of shiny silver, but this is where it gets kinda spooky. This magical ball was rolling on the ground on its own and seemed to follow them around throughout the house. It also used to vibrate, and when pushed, it would strangely return to its original position. Today, some believe it could have been due to the uneven floors, but honestly, I'm not convinced. Let me know your thoughts on it. Tomb of Messiah. Why is there so much controversy surrounding this tomb that allegedly was the final resting place of Jesus of Nazareth? The reason I say this is because even after extensive research, no one has been able to prove whether or not this tomb even belonged to him. Although some do say that the names and location match what is known from the doctrines, others are not too sure about it. It's been over 40 years now since the tomb was first located, and ever since then, the arguments surrounding it have not provided anything conclusive. Unbreakable safe.
This one, a mystery is swirling in the small Orleans County town of Barry. A large safe discovered in a field is fueling curiosity about what is possibly inside.
In the small town of Barr in Orleans County, New York, farmer Kirk Mathis was out and about when he received a strange call. A huge metal safe had been found in one of his fields. What was even stranger was that the safe had a note stuck to it, reading, "If you can open it, you can have what's inside." Before long, a crowd of people had arrived to try their luck at opening the mysterious locked box, but they remained unfortunate. It weighed about 600 pounds.
Pretty heavy, I'm thinking 500-600 pounds at least.
So moving it without some sort of machinery was impossible. But even after all the efforts to open it up, the mystery of what's inside the box remained unsolved. Cursed money. Wayne Savage found a big, bulky nylon bag in his yard, and inside were $150,000. Like any decent citizen, Savage turned the cash in to the Illinois police and was told that if nobody claimed it, he could have it all.
I looked in that one and I brought that one in, and then when the police came, I went and showed them where it was at, and I said, "Oh, it was right there next to the other bag." And then they brought the other bag had money in it too.
Eventually, his elderly neighbor Dolores suspiciously claimed the cash belonged to her, saying she got rid of it because it was cursed. But before she could claim any of the money back, she strangely passed away. But a mere 10 days before he was set to collect his prize, a freak diabetic problem flared up. And you guessed it, Savage passed away as well. Curse or not, it was a very strange set of events. Sewer monster. Back in June 2009, a video titled "Unknown Life Form in North Carolina Sewer" crawled up on YouTube and quickly became viral. The video showed a slimy, creepy, pulsating mass that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi horror movie. Maybe it was left behind by aliens or an extraterrestrial blob coming to take over the world.
Glistening blob is very pink and flesh-colored, and you gotta wonder if this red color isn't from hemoglobin, which is the chemical in our own blood that carries oxygen.
No doubt a sewer would be a strange place to start, but definitely discreet. But thankfully for all of us, it turned out to be less scary. However, still creepy as ever. This was actually a blob of worms called tubifex, which usually live inside lakes or ponds. But these ones managed to find their way into a North Carolina back tube. Satanic ritual site. On August 11, 2023, Python cowboy Mike Kimmel shared a chilling tale on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast.
People do go out there, as you can see from the graffiti and different stuff like that.
About a bizarre discovery he made in the Everglades while hunting invasive pythons near an abandoned Aerojet rocket test facility. Kimmel came across what appeared to be the remnants of a satanic ritual. He found dolls with no eyes and inverted crosses, Latin graffiti sprayed in red, and a wooden cross placed among rocks.
Bunch of red spray painted upside down crosses all over. And you could tell the cross, I think, was burnt a little bit.
The scene took a creepy turn when he discovered a small scarlet snake wrapped around a doll's neck. I'd suggest you watch it for yourself, because there's certain details that I can't really mention here, but just so you know, I am warning you, it's something else. The situation grew increasingly unsettling, so he left and reported it. The results of the investigation remain unknown. Cultist chest. This treasure chest was never meant to be opened. Treasure hunters found an ancient box with strange symbols all over it, but it was this sign that terrified them because of the secret society it's linked with. The chest was deep inside a cave that had worn out artifacts inside of it with an old book written in a language they'd never seen before. They left after finding this, fearing that they might have opened a cursed chest. What do you think this was? A hoax? Or something sinister? Let's discuss it down in the comments. Alien? Mutation? Or both? Is this creature even real? According to Venice Beach Freak Show, it apparently is one of the most authentic alien specimens ever discovered. The creature had a deformed shape, with an unusual face and a strange antenna-like thing on top of its head. He was sent a box with this creature inside a jar filled with preservation spirits by a man in Arizona who had said he found it in his backyard. Now, the Freak Show guy had seen a lot of strange stuff, but he was truly baffled by this eccentric creature. It's been about a decade now, yet no one knows what this is. You can't park there! It may sound insane, but back in 1978, a group of boys in Los Angeles stumbled upon something extraordinary. Concealed by a shallow layer of earth was the metallic green roof of a Ferrari Dino 246 GTS, a sought-after car in the 1970s that still sells for about $60,000 to $90,000 today. Yeah! This car hadn't been left underground to rot. Rugs were lying on top of its roof, and towels were stuffed inside the vents in an effort to preserve the precious vehicle. Several years later, it was revealed that the car's original owner had hired thieves to steal it so he could claim its insurance money, but they forgot where they buried it. And hey, I'm literally digging up classic cars here for your entertainment. That at least deserves a subscription to my channel, right? Thank you. All right, well, moving on to... this one. Stolen gold. A World Cup finale that ended up like this. Russian police found a ton of gold buried in a forest that was worth more than $2 million, and they believe it to be the stolen treasure from a heist that was carried out during the 2018 World Cup that the country hosted. Police found plastic bags covered in mud that contained gold rings, brooches with diamonds, and gems in the woods of Kazan, Russia. They successfully apprehended the suspect, who was a Colombian national hiding in Argentina. He confessed to where he hid the jewelry, worth 160 million rubles, which is equivalent to $2.2 million. Peculiar creatures. These small creatures were discovered in Auckland, New Zealand by the mother of Tim Clerk. the person who uploaded the video on social media. They had slightly furry bodies, with each having a rat-like tail. People commented on the video, saying they might be miniature rats, as some of them were still moving. Even experts at the University of Sydney and Australian Museum couldn't identify these creatures, which only confirms that this was indeed a bizarre discovery. Our subscribers' pick of the day. Look at this image for a second and let me know in the comments if you think this is real. I'll give you some time to write your answer. Done? Well, if your answer is yes, then you're absolutely correct, because in 2012, archaeologists discovered an ancient Mexican burial ground in the state of Sonora and were stunned by the sheer size of these remains. Just take a look at them! More than a dozen of them had elongated heads that were unusually large in size. Not only does this relate to the alien heads found in Peru, but also to the giants that have been found throughout the globe. This cemetery is more than 1,000 years old and dates back to the year 943 CE. Mysterious Lego Man.
Giant Lego man washed up on a beach and nobody really knows where it came from.
The mystery of the swimming Lego Man has finally been solved. Or has it? You see, back in 2012, a mysterious giant Lego man washed up on the beach of Sarasota, Florida. It was 8 feet tall, like myself, and weighed 100 pounds, as people gathered around to record the strange incident. At first, it was thought to be a lost piece from the Legoland amusement park in Florida that had recently opened, but Legoland officials denied any responsibility. So, where did it come from? Well, that was answered 3 years after this incident, because it was seen again floating down the second largest river in Europe, the Danube, and people speculate it was the work of Ego Leonard. Return of the Witches. Other than my mother-in-law, the only witch I like is her.
Look at her. I would die for her.
And it's possible they are finally returning, if these random, creepy witch bottles are for real. 8 witch bottles were found on the beach near Corpus Christi, Texas. But besides the shape, how can we even say they belong to an enchantress? Well, I don't know about you, but finding nails, twigs, and even bodily fluids inside of them, that's a pretty good indication that a normal human being didn't make them. Alien heads. Either whoever this belonged to had some great ideas, or these skulls are proof that aliens have existed on our planet.
Still quite a mystery as to why the elongation. Royal or mystic people that had this feature.
A boy from Peru made a shocking discovery in the mountains of Huancavelica, where he found an entire section of remains inside. It was their heads that caught his attention the most. Only after experts analyzed them did the truth come out that these cone-shaped heads were part of an ancient practice in the region. They were made of binding the heads of young people with wood or cloth. Archaeologists also say that this was only done to people of a high status. But the real mystery is why so many of these unique skulls ended up in a single cave. Stone Age blades.
You say the word Salutrian to an archaeologist, this is the tool that often comes to mind, this bi-pointed knife-like tool.
Do you know why finding these Ice Age tools is so significant? Because these hunting tools belong to a group called Soltrians that lived 17,000 to 22,000 years ago. But that's not all, you see. These items were found on the Chesapeake Bay that's connected to the Mid-Atlantic region. And that's pretty significant because now researchers know for a fact that Ice Age people successfully crossed the Atlantic thousands of years ago. And I'm tired of finding stuff on land, so let's go under and see what we find there. Sunken ships. If you're from San Francisco, then you might want to start treasure hunting, because back in 2001, a 150-year-old ship was found just beneath the city streets. And surprisingly, it wasn't the only one, because experts estimate that from 30 all the way to 60 ships are still undiscovered. Now, if you want a history lesson, then click the like button. And if not, then it's not on me if you miss a golden opportunity.
The San Francisco used to be called Yerba Buena, and they had Yerba Buena Cove, and it basically was south from the ferry building, up the Embarcadero, all the way to the Transamerica building. And after the gold rush, ships would come in by the dozens. There was over 1,000 ships in the harbor at one time, and others, the people on the ships would desert them because they wanted to find gold as well. So you had all these abandoned ships in the bay.
Which is exactly why there are so many ships here. Gold! People sailed to San Francisco and anchored their ships looking for it, but due to the incident of 1851, most of them capsized. Those gold hunters sure left a legacy. Confederate warship. A team of U.S. Navy divers faced a tough challenge when they tried to salvage a warship from the Savannah River.
After every dive, we actually have a chance to take a look at some of those things from that period here on deck and, kind of asking the question, what is that thing?
This was not easy, even though they've trained their whole lives for situations far more serious than this one. The issue was that there was zero visibility, so they had to make their way to the bottom of the river by quite literally feeling everything underwater. And let's not forget, commercial shipping cannot be stopped during this salvage operation. But lo and behold, our brave soldiers managed to get the Civil War ironclad vessel known as the CSS Georgia out of the riverbed. Oldest intact shipwreck. Since we're on the topic of diving into history, divers and researchers managed to get the oldest sunken ship to date. This shipwreck was still intact and was discovered at the bottom of the Black Sea after the most technologically advanced search and recovery dive operation.
Finding out things about shipbuilding and about how ships worked that we didn't know before. So the position of the rudders, how the whole ship worked, and that information just hasn't been available before because we haven't had anything this intact.
It's been carbon dated to 500 BC, meaning the ship is 2,400 years old. And it was identical to the drawings showing the Greek hero Odysseus being tied to the ship's mast as he listened to the haunting songs of sirens. Footprint of giants. Still don't believe giants once walked the earth? This video might just change your mind. A hunter in Africa was around a cliff when he saw weird patterns on it. So he decided to get a closer look. And to say he was shocked wouldn't even do that justice. A massive footprint was imprinted into the cliff and measured up to 1.2 meters long. It makes you wonder what sort of a creature left it behind.
It's spectacular. And I see that people have been visiting here because they've been leaving little coins here, which is wonderful.
Imagine a foot that big. The person who made it would have been colossal, like a 27-foot-tall giant. There isn't a lot of information on the footprint other than being covered head to toe with mystery, which has made some locals name it the footprint of God.
This is spectacular bit of human history. They were giants on Earth.
Four-legged whale. So, it turns out whales could not only swim, but walk on land. And I'm not the one saying this. Experts in the field have just discovered remains of a prehistoric whale that had limbs and not just fins.
ده هو نوع وجنس جديد لم يكتشف من قبل لحوت بر مائي يعني له القدرة على السباحة. طبعا وثقناه في أكبر مجلة من مجلات البيولوجي في العالم البروسيدنج بي.
And this beast of an animal was an apex predator because of its bite and strong jaw. Researchers are not yet sure exactly how old it is, but 43 million years old is a pretty safe guess for now. Since this discovery was made in Egypt, let's see what else hides under the ancient sand dunes. The infamous king. 85 years ago, King Tutankhamun's golden enshrined tomb was discovered, and after almost a century, the 3,000-year-old pharaoh was shown to the public for the first time, and calling it shocking is an understatement. After the archaeologists carefully removed the linen-wrapped pharaoh from his stone sarcophagus, they placed him in a climate-controlled glass box within the tomb. But this wasn't without its controversy, and some were a bit more superstitious than others. Dr. Zahi Hawass, an expert in the field, explained that they wanted to preserve King Tut, as public access could lead to his deterioration. Some people said that these archaeologists are paid grave robbers and should leave these ancient burials alone, while more said doing so will unleash a curse upon humankind. coffins of Saqqara. An astounding archaeological discovery in Egypt sent shockwaves around the world 2 years ago near Cairo. A team of archaeologists unearthed a remarkable cemetery in Saqqara, revealing hundreds of ancient Egyptian sarcophagi. This incredible find included a treasure trove of bronze statues depicting revered deities like Anubis, Amun, and Osiris. And in the middle of all these stunning revelations was a statue of the legendary architect Imhotep. Not the movie version, but the real genius behind the famed Saqqara pyramid. Greek discoveries. At the burial site of Tuna el Gebel in Egypt's central Minya area, more than 40 mummies were discovered of the Ptolemaic era. The researchers found a mix of male and female mummies of different ages, and it was surprisingly only 9 meters below the surface, with 6 rooms.
It's amazing to see the mummies in situ, still in their coffins, in limestone coffin or in clay coffins.
Astonishingly, the coffins were not similar. Some were made out of clay, while others limestone. Could the difference in the coffins be due to the difference in their social status? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Aged snacks. Unlike some drinks, aged edibles are not going to be quite appetizing. Remember when I talked about the discovery of King Tut's golden enshrined tomb? Well, inside, archaeologists found a bunch of ancient snacks. The tomb was filled with food like dates, onions, bread, and even wine. Now, that drink is gonna taste diabolical if you ask me. Let me have a sip.
Little green onions and garlic, so he could flavor his food or munch on the green onion. And the dates. But what's really amazing about Tutankhamun's dates.
But the reason as to why they did this is a bit more interesting. Ancient Egyptians believed that the afterlife was a continuation, and since he was a king, he was buried with such a huge variety so he could choose to eat whatever he desired. Boy, afterlife for the Egyptians sounds pretty delicious. Fossilized dinosaur. In 2018, Egyptian archaeologists found the remains of a rare dinosaur species when they were digging in the Delta region. These fossils were 30 million years old, buried just a few feet underneath all the desert sand. The dinosaur is said to be a long-necked herbivore called Paralititan stromeri. Nice!
ده بالنسبة لي هو ده فخر الاكتشاف إن قدرت أثر في الشارع عموما في الميدل إيست إن يبقى في حراك وكلام عن الديناصورات.
This was indeed a huge discovery for the scientists, as this new species is the only dinosaur from that time period that's been discovered in Africa. What's even more astonishing is that researchers searched nearly 1,000 kilometers of land for 5 years before finding it. Star of India. The glorious blue star sapphire, weighing 563.35 carats, has got quite the past to it. Although called the Star of India, it was actually mined in Sri Lanka and later passed to the Maharajas.
We own the world's largest blue sapphire corundum, which weighs approximately about 17 kilos, which has 85,000 carats. We are expecting it to fetch around $800 million.
It was only after collectors like JP Morgan came into the picture that the gem would finally arrive in America and be exhibited inside the American Museum of Natural History, because outside would be too easy to be robbed. But in 1964, someone did manage to steal it. For a while, until it was recovered from a Miami bus station locker. Strange chamber. An explorer was using his drone when investigating an old castle in France, when he accidentally ended up capturing the most bone-chilling footage of his life. So, Chateau in France, he discovered a secret chamber with a questionable past, with remains all over the floor. There were rusted old wires coiled around 2 of the remains, and people believe this might have a dark past. Statue of Secrets. Lady Liberty was completed in 1886, and every year, nearly 5 million people visit her. Or should I say, him. Some historians think that the statue's face is designed after the sculptor Frederic Auguste Bartholdi's brother, and not the Roman goddess Libertas. And before it was completed, a time capsule with treasures like a copy of the US Constitution and bronze medals were placed under the statue, and they can only be accessed after it gets dismantled, though some internet theorists say the raised foot as a hidden door. And one more little secret before I move on. You see that torch? Originally, it was a balcony where tourists could admire the view, until the incident of 1916, and let me just say, the Germans were involved in that one. Australian giant! Alright, gotta make this quick before they track me down. In 2015, an alleged 5-meter or 16.5-foot long specimen was discovered in Australia that looked like a gigantic hominid, which was found near the ancient ruins of a megalithic civilization.
Over here, I have the mammoth leg bone, which is that massive bone right there. Give me a second, it's rather heavy. See, it's still quite large.
Of course, being such a shocking discovery, the news spread around like wildfire and started to become so unbelievable that even researchers got involved as they tried to get their hands on the remains. University professors wanted to conduct lessons on it until some keen-eyed people saw the truth. It turned out that the site it was originally posted on had left a disclaimer saying it was fictional and satirical. But since we have evidence like these, many believe that giants did once exist, and some still do. How's it hanging? Perhaps the most peculiar case can be found at the Orangeville Shoe Forest in Canada. As you can see, it's a forest filled with shoes. Being the logical person you are, I can almost read your mind as you're wondering, why? Well, that's the thing. Nobody knows. It all began sometime in the 70s when a single pair of jazz shoes were found nailed to a roadside tree. The identity of the jazz shoes' owner is unknown, but strangers fly over from far and wide to offer their own sneakers to these trees. I can only imagine the horrid stench of this forest. Ugh. Dinosaur Garden. A man from Pombal in Portugal found something other than a wild plant sticking out in his backyard garden in 2017.
The remains of what could be the largest dinosaur ever discovered in Europe being excavated in a back garden in Portugal. The fossilized skeleton of a sauropod was discovered in the central city of Pombal when a man began building work on his house.
He was busy doing construction on his property when certain bone fragments caught his attention. And would you believe it? They were the fossilized remains of a dinosaur. And I don't mean just any dinosaur. It was an 80-foot-long one, which is the same size as the largest animal on the planet today, the blue whale. Enigmatic shroud. This one's a bit tricky and kinda controversial. You see, ever since it was first discovered in the 1300s, this artifact has been constantly questioned, and rightfully so, because it's connected to one of the most important figures in history.
Ever since the shroud first really appears in history, there's been controversy about it, and there have been questions about its authenticity.
Known as the Shroud of Turin, in relation to an important figure like him, there's going to be a lot of debate and not always the good kind. But that doesn't mean that scientists haven't tried to find out the truth. They say, thanks to carbon dating, it was likely made between 1260 and 1390. Now, whether or not it's of a certain religious figure, I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. Discovery within a discovery. The remains of a Tyrannosaurus were found in southern Alberta, Canada. And there's a surprising reason why this discovery is the first of its kind. After carefully digging it out, experts found something inside of its stomach. This extinct animal had the remains of prey that belonged to another ancient dinosaur known as chittipests.
I knew right away that, this was a unique and unusual discovery because Tyrannosaurus skeleton with prey items preserved inside the stomach region had never been found before.
It was most likely a yearling, and this discovery did provide information on what went on during the prehistoric era. Real vampires. Oh yes, vampires! Only found in movies and novels. I mean, we've got nothing to worry about, right? Right? Well, hold on to your steaks and garlic, because their remains were found in Bulgaria, and it was by accident. But I don't really believe that. Scientists were doing different excavations in the country when they found many 700-year-old burials filled with remains. But there were two odd burials that caught their attention. These gave the scientists goosebumps because they had rods inside of their rib cages, and according to folklore, only vampires were given such send-offs. This was done to make sure they never returned to the living world, and archaeologists may have just doomed everyone. Underwater statues. This site is sure to stop any diver that comes across it, and it can be found eerily waiting to give you the fright of your life on the Atlantic seabed off the coast of the Spanish island of Lanzarote. It's sort of an underwater museum that looks like Atlantis came across Medusa. Although, if that was true, it'd be amazing and kinda haunting. But these sculptures were in fact created by British artist Jason Taylor. His actual motivation is admirable, but honestly, no diver wants to come across this when they're deep-sea diving at night. Little Angel. Divers in Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, discovered this mysterious site in 2017, and they named it Cenote Angelita, or Little Angel in English. But what am I even looking at, I can hear you ask. It can be a bit confusing, so I'll do my best to explain. Basically, this is a sinkhole, and over time, it gets filled with fresh water from above and salt water from below. So there's two different layers of water within different densities, and these bodies of water separate, creating this mesmerizing spectacle. Imagine it like how oil behaves with water. New species.
Scientists have made a groundbreaking discovery deep in a cave in South Africa, the bones of what looked to be a new human-like species.
In South Africa's Rising Star Cave System, an incredible discovery in 2013 completely changed our understanding of human evolution. A team of cavers led by paleoanthropologist Lee Berger found the hidden Dinaledi chamber filled with fossils of an unknown species, Homo naledi.
A new species within our very genus that we have called Homo naledi.
These fossils were a mix of primitive and modern features, but surprisingly advanced hands, feet, and teeth. This unexpected combination made scientists rethink the human family tree, saying it was far more complex and diverse than previously believed. Viking treasure. Laborers were repairing a river embankment in Lancashire, England, when they accidentally came across the Quairdale Hoard, which is one of the largest Viking silver hoards found outside Scandinavia. Scholars believe it was buried between 905 and 910 AD during the Viking invasions of England, possibly as a religious offering, or perhaps even hidden wealth. Who knows? This hoard contained over 8,600 items, including coins, jewelry, ingots, and other precious metal objects. And where is this massive treasure trove now? Well, as expected, the British Museum. Golden Ship. This side-wheel steamer sank in 1857 during a hurricane, taking down with it a fortune in gold. But fret not, dear viewers, because in 1988 it was finally discovered or salvaged by the Columbus America Discovery Group, led by Tommy Gregory Thompson. It was filled to the brink with gold coins, bars, and artifacts, which are worth an astonishing $150 million. Something this old and precious had its shortcomings, though. Recovery was not at all easy, and believe it or not, after multiple legal battles, the insurance company was given everything. But that's what insurance companies are for, to ensure they get everything.